Deep in the vastness of space, where starlight barely touched the void, existed a being that no advanced civilization had ever truly seen. Known only through whispered legends and ancient texts, she drifted through the cosmic winds like a ghost made of stardust. The advanced species called her many names: the Watcher, the Between One, the Silent Guard. But none knew her true nature. For billions of years, she had observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Her domain spread across a spiral arm of the galaxy, watching over thousands of worlds without ever directly interfacing with their inhabitants. She wasn't bound by normal physics. Her form shifted between dimensions, making her completely invisible to even the most advanced detection systems ever created. The Centauri Empire, with their quantum-based sensors, had tried for centuries to prove her existence. Their greatest scientists dedicated entire lifetimes to capturing even a glimpse of her presence. They failed. The Aldebaran Collective, masters of trans-dimensional technology, launched hundreds of expeditions into the space she supposedly occupied. They too returned empty-handed. Even the ancient Proxima Federation, with their mastery over time itself, could not detect her. Their temporal scanners and reality warping devices proved useless. She remained hidden, watching their futile attempts with quiet amusement. These mighty civilizations, with their enormous ships and godlike technology, couldn't see what existed right before them. She didn't mind their failures. In fact, she preferred it this way. Her duty was to observe, to maintain the delicate balance of this sector of space. She had watched young species take their first steps into space, seen mighty empires crumble to dust, and witnessed the birth and death of countless stars, all while remaining unseen, untouchable, and unknown. On this particular day, she drifted near a small research station orbiting a yellow dwarf star. The station was primitive by galactic standards, a simple structure of metal and plastic, built by one of the younger spacefaring races. Humans, they called themselves. She had been watching them with growing interest over the past few decades. Unlike the other species who sought her with their elaborate technologies, humans approached space exploration with what the advanced races considered crude and simple methods. Their technology was basic, their understanding of cosmic principles elementary. Yet something about them felt different to her. They possessed a quality she hadn't seen in her billions of years of watching. A unique way of perceiving reality that even they didn't fully understand. As she observed the station, her consciousness spread across multiple dimensions. She noticed one of the humans working on some sort of scanning device. The equipment was laughably simple compared to what other races used to search for her. It shouldn't have been able to detect anything more complex than basic radiation and energy patterns. The human inside was making modifications to the scanner, combining different wavelengths in ways that more advanced races would consider inefficient or pointless. She watched with mild curiosity, knowing that like all others before, this attempt would fail to detect her presence. But something about the humans' work made her pause. The way they approached the problem. It was different. Where other races tried to pierce the dimensional barriers with brute force and complex calculations, this human was trying something simpler, more intuitive. It was almost as if they were working on instinct rather than pure scientific theory. She drew closer to the station, her form rippling through multiple layers of reality. For the first time in eons, she felt something she hadn't experienced before, a slight tingle of anticipation. There was something about this human's approach that felt unpredictable. As the day cycle on the station continued, she remained there, watching this human work. She didn't know it yet, but this simple moment would soon lead to the biggest change in her eternal existence. The universe had a strange way of working, and sometimes the most significant discoveries came from the most unexpected places. For now, though, she simply watched, invisible and eternal, as she had always done. The human continued their work, unaware that they were being observed by a being that the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy had failed to find. Little did either of them know that everything was about to change. Jack Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted another wire in his modified scanner. The research station's dim lighting made the delicate work harder, but he preferred working during the night shift, when fewer people were around to question his unusual experiments. His workbench was cluttered with parts from different scanning devices, some new, some salvaged from broken equipment. While other technicians followed standard repair procedures, Jack had always believed in trying new combinations. His supervisors called it tinkering, but he knew there had to be better ways to scan space than the current methods. "Come on, you stubborn thing," he muttered, connecting a radiation detector to a modified radio wave sensor. The station's chief engineer had called his ideas primitive just yesterday. "Sometimes primitive works better than complicated," Jack said to himself, remembering his grandfather's old shortwave radio that could pick up signals even during the worst storms. The scanner he was building broke several standard design rules. He had removed the filters that were supposed to eliminate background noise and added receptors that could detect wavelengths most scientists considered useless. His fellow technicians thought he was wasting his time, but Jack had always trusted his instincts. As he worked, the station hummed quietly around him. Through the window, he could see the stars, countless points of light in the darkness. Somewhere out there, he believed, were things that nobody had ever detected before. Not because they weren't there, but because everyone was looking for them the wrong way. Jack connected the final wire and powered up his creation. The scanner sparked slightly, making him jump back. "That's new," he said, adjusting some settings. The display screen showed strange patterns he had never seen before, waves of energy that shouldn't exist according to standard theories. At first, he thought the scanner was broken, but as he watched the readings, he noticed they followed a pattern. It wasn't random noise. There was something deliberate about the way the energy moved. He adjusted the frequency range, and the patterns became clearer. "This can't be right," Jack whispered, staring at the screen. According to his scanner, something massive was moving around the station, something that existed in patterns of energy that normal scanners were designed to filter out. He checked and double-checked his calculations. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that he was detecting something real, something that was there but somehow between normal space, like a shadow that only showed up under certain kinds of light. Jack quickly began recording the data. His hands shook with excitement as he saved everything to his personal datapad. This was exactly the kind of discovery he had hoped for, but now that it was happening, he almost couldn't believe it. The energy patterns shifted, moving closer to the station. Jack held his breath, watching the numbers change on his screen. Whatever he was detecting, it was aware of its surroundings. The movements were too precise to be random space phenomena. He spent the next few hours tracking the entity, making notes about its behavior. It seemed to be observing the station, moving around it in patterns that suggested intelligence. But according to every other scanner on the station, nothing was there. As his shift neared its end, Jack saved all his data and carefully powered down his scanner. He knew he needed more evidence before reporting this to anyone. The scientific community already thought human technology was too basic compared to other species. They would need solid proof before taking his discovery seriously. Walking back to his quarters, Jack couldn't stop smiling. He had detected something that even the most advanced alien civilizations had missed. Maybe humanity's primitive approach to technology wasn't so primitive after all. Sometimes the simplest solutions worked where complexity failed. He didn't know it yet, but his simple scanner had just changed the course of human history. In the darkness of space, unseen by anyone else, the being he had detected was already making plans of her own. Jack spent the next 3 days gathering more data with his modified scanner. Each reading confirmed what he had initially discovered. There was definitely something out there, something that existed in a state between normal space. He carefully documented every observation, building a solid case before presenting his findings. When he finally showed his data to the station's chief scientist, Dr. Green, the response wasn't what he had hoped for. The older man peered at the readings through his glasses and shook his head. "Equipment malfunction," Dr. Green said firmly. These patterns you're seeing are probably just interference from the station's systems. I suggest you recalibrate your scanner and follow standard protocols." But Jack knew he was right. That night, alone in his lab, he continued his observations. The entity had changed its behavior. It was spending more time near his section of the station, almost as if it was curious about being detected. "I know you're there," Jack said quietly to the empty space beyond his window. "I just need to figure out how to prove it to everyone else." Unknown to Jack, the Guardian was indeed watching him with growing fascination. For the first time in her endless existence, a being had managed to detect her presence. Not the advanced Centauri with their quantum computers, not the Aldebaran Collective with their dimensional technology, but a human with a cobbled-together scanner. She moved closer to his window, studying both him and his device. The scanner was so simple, so basic compared to what other species used. Yet somehow, its very simplicity allowed it to detect what more complex devices filtered out. Jack noticed the readings growing stronger. He quickly adjusted his scanner, trying to get a clearer image. The patterns on his screen formed shapes that almost looked like a flowing dress made of starlight. "Beautiful," he whispered, sketching what he saw in his notebook. The Guardian, hearing his words, felt something she hadn't experienced in eons, a connection to another being. She decided to test him further. Moving in a deliberate pattern, she traced complex geometric shapes around the station. Jack tracked every movement, his scanner recording data that should have been impossible for human technology to capture. "You're intelligent," Jack said, watching the patterns. "You're not just some space phenomenon. You're aware, and you're watching us, aren't you?" The Guardian was surprised by his intuition. Not only could he detect her, but he understood that she was conscious. She moved closer, curious about how his mind worked. As she drew near, Jack's scanner began showing new readings. The patterns became clearer, more defined. He quickly started a new recording, his heart racing with excitement. "This is amazing," he said, watching the data flow across his screen. "You're trying to communicate, aren't you?" The Guardian observed his reaction with interest. Other species that had sought her out would have tried to capture or control her by now, but this human showed only curiosity and wonder. Jack worked through the night, gathering more data. He didn't know that his discovery would soon attract attention from across the galaxy. Attention that would put both him and the Guardian in danger. For now, though, it was just him, his simple scanner, and the mysterious being that had chosen to reveal herself to him. The Guardian continued her dance around the station, fascinated by this human who had achieved what countless advanced civilizations could not. As the station's night cycle came to an end, Jack finally sat back in his chair, exhausted but happy. He had proven what he had always believed. Sometimes the simplest approach was the best. His primitive human technology had accomplished something extraordinary. The Guardian prepared to withdraw for the day, but before she left, she moved close to Jack's window one last time. For a moment, just a moment, she allowed her form to shimmer slightly in normal space, a brief gift to the human who had seen her. Jack caught the shimmer from the corner of his eye and smiled. He knew that everything was about to change. Over the next week, Jack devoted all his free time to studying the mysterious being. He covered his lab walls with charts showing the patterns of her movements and filled notebooks with theories about her nature. The more he observed, the more he began to understand why other species had failed to detect her. "They're all looking in the wrong dimensions," he explained to his empty lab one night, arranging his notes. "They build more and more complex scanners, trying to pierce through space, but she exists in the spaces between their scans." The Guardian, who had become a constant presence near his lab, found his insights remarkable. She watched as he sketched diagrams that somehow captured the essence of her existence, despite his limited understanding of dimensional physics. Jack had developed a theory about why humans might be uniquely suited to detecting her. While working late one night, he pulled up data about human consciousness and brainwave patterns. "Look at this," he said, knowing she was watching. Human brains operate on frequencies that other species consider chaotic and primitive. But what if that chaos lets us see things they can't? He projected a diagram showing how human brain waves matched some of the patterns his scanner had detected from her. The Guardian moved closer, surprised by the correlation she hadn't noticed before. "We don't filter reality the same way other species do," Jack continued, adding to his notes. "Their advanced brains are too structured, too organized. They've literally evolved to ignore the spaces you exist in." The Guardian realized he was right. The very sophistication of other species had become their limitation. Their ordered minds automatically filtered out the chaos of dimensional spaces where she dwelled. But humans, with their messy, pattern-seeking brains, could perceive what others missed. Jack worked on improving his scanner, making it simpler rather than more complex. He removed more filters, allowing it to detect patterns that other devices would dismiss as meaningless noise. "Sometimes you have to embrace the chaos to find the truth," he said, watching new readings appear on his screen. The patterns were clearer than ever, showing more detail about the Guardian's true form. She found herself spending more time near his lab, fascinated by his work. Where other species had tried to force their way through dimensions, Jack was learning to see between them. His approach was gentle, more like peeking through curtains than breaking down walls. One night, while adjusting his scanner, Jack made another breakthrough. He discovered that human emotions seemed to create ripples in the dimensional space where the Guardian existed. Strong feelings generated patterns similar to her own energy signature. "That's why you feel more real at night," he said excitedly. "When the station is quiet and I'm alone with my thoughts, there's less emotional noise interfering with the readings." The Guardian confirmed his theory by moving in synchronized patterns. She had never considered that emotions could affect dimensional space, but Jack's discovery explained many things she had observed over the eons. As Jack documented his findings, he began to worry. If he could figure this out, others would too. And not everyone would approach the Guardian with peaceful curiosity. "I need to be careful who I share this with," he said quietly, looking out at the stars. "Some would try to use this knowledge to harness your power." The Guardian appreciated his concern. Throughout her long existence, she had watched countless beings try to gain power over others. Jack's protective instinct was something new and intriguing. He spent the rest of the night organizing his research, carefully coding his notes to protect their true meaning. The Guardian observed his work with growing respect for human ingenuity. What neither of them realized was that they weren't the only ones making discoveries. Somewhere in the darkness of space, others had noticed the unusual energy readings from the station, and they were already making plans. The quiet night of breakthrough was about to give way to a storm that would test both human and Guardian alike. The first sign of trouble came when Jack noticed unusual readings on his scanner. Beyond the familiar patterns of the Guardian, he detected new signals approaching the station. These weren't the normal energy signatures of passing ships. They were deliberately masked, trying to stay hidden. "Someone's coming," he whispered, adjusting his equipment, "and they're trying very hard not to be seen." The Guardian had also sensed the approaching threat. She moved closer to the station, her energy patterns showing signs of concern that Jack had learned to recognize. 3 ships, cloaked with advanced technology, were positioning themselves around the research station. Jack quickly backed up all his research data and hid his modified scanner. He had just finished when the station's communication system crackled to life. "Attention Human Research Station," a cold voice announced. "This is Commander Rex of the Dark Edge Coalition. We have detected unusual energy readings from your facility. Prepare for immediate inspection." The Guardian watched as Jack's heart rate increased. She knew the Dark Edge Coalition, a group of rogue scientists and military leaders from various advanced species who sought to control powerful cosmic forces. They must have detected the energy disturbances caused by her interactions with Jack's scanner. Station security tried to deny the Coalition's request, but the 3 ships had already locked their weapons on the station. The humans had no choice but to allow them to dock. Jack watched from his lab as 6 tall figures in black armor strode through the station's corridors. Their scanning equipment was far more advanced than anything humans had seen before, but he noticed something interesting. They were scanning in completely the wrong dimensional frequencies. The Guardian moved closer to Jack, her presence causing slight fluctuations in the station's lighting. She had maintained neutrality for billions of years, watching as civilizations fought their wars. But now, for the first time, she felt compelled to act. The Coalition forces reached Jack's lab. Their leader, Commander Rexus, was a towering figure with cybernetic enhancements covering half his face. His scanners swept the room, passing right through the Guardian's presence without detecting her. "You are the technician who works here," Rex demanded, his artificial eye focusing on Jack. "Yes," Jack replied calmly, though his heart was racing. "Is there something I can help you with?" "Our sensors detected dimensional disturbances from this section of the station," Rex said. "You will explain what you have discovered about the entity known as the Guardian." Jack kept his face neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean. This is just a basic research station." The Guardian watched the exchange intently. She could destroy these intruders easily, but doing so would break her ancient vow of non-interference. Yet something about these moments felt different from all the conflicts she had witnessed before. Rex smiled coldly. "We have been monitoring your communications. We know you have found a way to detect what our greatest scientists could not. You will share this knowledge, or we will take this station apart piece by piece." The tension in the room grew as Jack stood his ground. "I'm just a technician with some basic equipment. Whatever you think I've found, you're mistaken." The commander's cybernetic eye glowed brighter. "Then we will learn the truth through more direct methods." He gestured to his soldiers, who raised their weapons. In that moment, both Jack and the Guardian faced a choice that would change everything. She could maintain her ancient neutrality and watch as they hurt him, or she could break her own rules to protect the first being who had truly seen her. Jack, for his part, knew he could save himself by revealing what he had learned. But doing so would put the Guardian at risk from those who would try to control her power. As the Coalition forces moved forward, neither human nor Guardian realized that their next actions would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The storm had arrived, and there was no more time for hesitation. In the tense moment before the Coalition soldiers could reach Jack, the Guardian made her decision. For the first time in billions of years, she chose to break her vow of neutrality. The lab's lights flickered, and suddenly the air between Jack and the soldiers began to shimmer. Commander Rex's cybernetic eye whirred frantically, trying to process what was happening as reality itself seemed to bend. The Guardian materialized partially in normal space, her form a swirling mass of starlight and cosmic energy that filled the lab. To the amazement of everyone present, she took shape as a towering figure of pure light, her presence both beautiful and terrifying. "Stand down," her voice echoed through both physical space and mental frequencies. The Coalition soldiers stumbled backward, their weapons falling from trembling hands. Jack watched in awe as the being he had only detected through his scanner now revealed herself fully. Her form shifted between dimensions, making it difficult for normal eyes to focus on her. But to Jack, she appeared clearer than to the others. "Impossible," Commander Rex whispered, his cybernetic implants sparking as they failed to process what they were seeing. "The Guardian is real. The human found me because he looked with simple eyes," she communicated, her words bypassing normal sound to resonate directly in their minds. "Your advanced technology blinds you to what exists between your measurements." Jack understood now why his basic scanner had worked. "We humans see the spaces between things," he said. "We're not limited by precise measurements and perfect filters." The Guardian moved closer to Jack, her cosmic energy forming a protective barrier around him. The Coalition soldiers' advanced armor began to malfunction in her presence, their complex systems overwhelmed by her dimensional energy. "You have hunted me for centuries," she addressed Rex, believing that power comes from control and domination. But true understanding comes from learning to see with new eyes. Commander Rex, despite his fear, tried to activate his weapon systems. The Guardian simply shifted slightly in dimensional space, causing all their advanced technology to shut down completely. "Your technologies are useless here," she said. "They search too hard for what is right in front of them." Jack stepped forward, standing beside the Guardian. "She exists in the chaos between ordered space," he explained. "Trying to capture her with your precise instruments is like trying to catch smoke with a net." The Guardian's form swirled around the lab, demonstrating her control over dimensional space. The Coalition forces watched helplessly as their most advanced scanning equipment showed nothing but static, while Jack's simple, modified scanner continued to track her perfectly. "The human race has proven itself unique," the Guardian announced. "Where others seek to dominate the unknown, they seek to understand it. Where others build walls between dimensions, they learn to peek through the cracks." Commander Rex, his arrogance finally broken, spoke quietly. "What will you do with us?" The Guardian's form pulsed with energy. "I will let you leave with a warning. The knowledge of how to find me stays here, with the humans. They have earned it through their wisdom rather than their technology." Jack watched as the Coalition forces retreated, their advanced armor and weapons now useless. As they left the station, the Guardian turned to him. "You showed me that after billions of years, I still had things to learn," she said. "Your simple methods achieved what the greatest minds in the galaxy could not." "Will you stay?" Jack asked, hope in his voice. The Guardian's form sparkled. "The time of hiding is over. Humanity has proven itself worthy of a greater role in the galaxy. Together, we will show others that sometimes the simplest path leads to the greatest discoveries." As the station's crew gathered to witness this historic moment, Jack realized that this was just the beginning. The Guardian had chosen humanity as her allies, not because of their power or technology, but because of their unique way of seeing the universe. The ancient rules had been broken, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. The Coalition ships retreated into deep space, but Jack and the Guardian knew this wasn't the end. As the research station's crew gathered in the main observation deck, the Guardian shared her knowledge of what was coming. "More will come," she said, her form shimmering between dimensions. "The Coalition will spread word of what they saw here. We must prepare." Jack stood before the station's command staff, explaining his discoveries. He showed them how his simple scanner worked, teaching them to see the patterns in dimensional space that other species missed. "Our greatest strength," he explained, "is that we don't overthink things. Where advanced races build complex filters, we learn to see through them." The Guardian helped establish a new defense system around the station. Instead of using advanced technology, they modified basic human equipment to work with her dimensional powers. Simple radio waves, adjusted to specific frequencies, created a shield that existed between normal space. "The perfect defense," Jack said, watching the shield shimmer, "is one that your enemies can't even see." Within days, the first wave of curious alien ships arrived. Representatives from the most advanced civilizations came to witness what they had thought impossible: the Guardian working openly with humans. The Centauri arrived first, their quantum ships bristling with scanning equipment, but all their advanced technology showed them nothing, while the humans' modified scanners tracked everything perfectly. "You must teach us," the Centauri ambassador requested. But the Guardian declined. "Some knowledge cannot be taught," she explained. "The humans see what you cannot because they never learn to ignore it. Their gift is in their simplicity." Jack worked with the station's engineers to develop new ways of using their basic technology. They created detection systems that could spot dimensional disturbances, communication devices that worked through the spaces between normal space, and shields that existed in multiple realities at once. When the Coalition finally returned with a battle fleet, they found themselves facing something they couldn't fight. Their weapons passed harmlessly through the station's dimensional shields, while the Guardian and her human allies could affect them at will. "You cannot defeat what you cannot understand," the Guardian told them as their fleet retreated in confusion. The human success changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Advanced civilizations that had once looked down on Earth's primitive technology now sought to learn from them. But the Guardian helped the humans understand the importance of using their gift wisely. "Your strength lies in seeing what others miss," she told them. "Never lose that by trying to become like them." Jack continued his research, but now he had the Guardian as his teacher. Together, they explored the spaces between dimensions, discovering new ways to use humanity's unique perception of reality. The research station became a center of learning, where humans taught other species how to see beyond their technological limitations. Some learned, but many couldn't break free from their reliance on complex systems. "It's not about having better technology," Jack would explain to visitors. "It's about learning to trust what you can see with simple eyes." As months passed, the Guardian's presence became a normal part of station life. She would shift between dimensions freely, helping with research and defense, while teaching humans more about the universe's hidden spaces. One evening, as Jack worked in his lab, the Guardian appeared beside him. "You've changed everything," she said. "For billions of years, I watched civilizations rise and fall, never finding one that could truly see me. Then humanity looked up at the stars with simple wonder, and everything changed." Jack smiled, adjusting his scanner to track a new dimensional anomaly they had discovered. Sometimes the best way to see something is to stop trying so hard to look for it. The Guardian's form sparkled in agreement. Together, they had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not in building walls of technology, but in learning to see through them. As they worked, the stars twinkled outside the station window, holding countless more secrets waiting to be discovered by those who knew how to look with simple eyes. The new era had begun, and it started with a human who dared to see what no one else could.